Time to rewind and open your mind. No late fees to annoy you this time. Video store might be no more, but we're digging up movies worth watching them for. Welcome to Video Store Graveyard, where we dig up movies worth watching or sometimes leave them buried where they belong. As always, I'm Dano.
I'm Andrew.
I'm Tex.
And today we're delving deep into the much maligned and sometimes celebrated genre of the teen sex comedy, but one that I thought would be interesting just because I'd never seen it and I didn't think these guys had either. And we decided to check out Joysticks.
You know, this movie should have been called Joy Suck because it was super boring.
Yeah, that's Well, we will have varying opinions on this, but yeah, the first 10 minutes of the movie, I was kind of taken aback. A little background on it. It's a 1983 American comedy film directed by Graydon Clark. This has a lot of actors that went on to have success as character actors, including Scott McGinnis, who's known for Star Trek 3. Also, Joe Don Baker, who had been on Walking Tall. He's been a great character actor through his career. And one of my favorites, John Grice as King Vidiot. We'll get to him more in a little bit because I think he's probably my favorite part, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was your guys either. Joysticks actually came out how many years after Animal House? Looks like it was 5 years after Animal House.
Yeah. That movie is much more entertaining than this one for sure.
Well, yeah, I just mentioned it in passing because it's kind of, I think,
it's similar in ways. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Well, it kind of started it all, you know? Like the peeping through the windows and just the general party atmosphere, debauchery. And although, interestingly enough, man, this movie predates Revenge of the Nerds by 2
I was about to mention that because that was the much more like interesting one that I remember. I remember that one more fondly than this movie. Because I did watch this movie before you guys did watch it, and I should have given a disclaimer that it would be a boring slog.
Well, like I said, you say boring. I say it was bad.
Well,
I don't know if I was ever bored. It just the first 10 to 15 minutes, I didn't know what the hell was going on. I was like, what? Oh no.
I'll say this: the movie is not nothing is not going on. Like it's got interesting stuff going on at times. Like it's not like a slug. Like oh man, these kids are just so dry. No, I mean they're trying somewhat their best to make it interesting. So I'm not gonna like rag the film that much.
It had boobs.
Well, this was at a different time, I suppose.
It's a prerequisite, I think, of the teen sex comedy that there is boobage. Probably the best example, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, Phoebe Cates, yes, who ruined everyone else forever. Anyway, that also came out after this movie. This was early on, and they were playing around with these ideas of the video arcade, and I think that's an important thing to talk about since
that's
we're such big nerdos.
It's an important thing to talk about because I don't believe any character in this game is really playing the games on the screen because like they're moving, but like what they're doing with the joysticks is clearly not what's not happening on screen. I found that funny. I just kept bothering me the whole film. I was like, you're not really playing the game. This is bothering me.
I do like the giant joysticks towards the end, though. When they're doing competitive.
Like that,
yeah,
that is pretty huge. That's cool.
I'd like to see something like that at pinballs. So anyway, yeah, that'd be good to see a giant joystick there. I mean, I already have giant Pac-Man, so anyway.
Andrew, when did you first see this movie? I'm curious.
Okay, so that's a long story. So back when little Andrew was in high school, you know, I started watching the American Pies and, you know, all those type of films when I was around, let's say, for legal purposes, 18. Yeah, I saw this movie at a very young age. I was kind of binging all those like old, like, you know, American Pie, John Hughes types of films like those. And this one came up and I was like, huh? A sex comedy with, you know, gaming in it? That sounds kind of weird and interesting. So I'd seen this film a long time ago, and then I rewatched it for this little podcast we watched for today, and we're here now. Curious why you're asking that, Tex.
Well, because like Dano, I was thinking no one had really seen this. But when you say you saw it, I was just taken off guard because one, you thought it sucked, and two, obviously this was way before your time. And so I was just curious if you had seen it like when you were younger, or if you had just seen it like earlier this year or last year or something. So I was just trying to get a reference.
No, that makes sense. So I totally understand where you're coming from on that, because this is like before my time, obviously. So like I'm not going to understand how important some of that stuff, like what Dano was saying, because I come from like a different generation. So this stuff won't mean as much to me as it does to when it came out, if that makes any sense.
Well, I'm not all sentimental about it, but I see what you're saying.
It's not that much.
I'm just saying you saw it way in advance and you didn't bother to warn either of us of how awful this was going to be.
Well, yeah, I should have.
It's like you didn't need to. So let's Dano let him lead us into a minefield. I'm just not going to say anything. No, there's stuff I like about this movie. Okay, quick plot breakdown. It involves that classic this group of teenagers that are trying to save their local arcade because the guy running the town wants to shut it down. And so it's just kind of like the Animal House, like they're trying to shut down their fraternity, or there's always something that some authority figure is trying to shut down that the teenagers have to save, and all the other stuff just happens in between. But so this time it's an arcade. Cool little things about this. Well, it does feature. This is not one of the cool things. It does have kind of a Belushi-esque character, the gamer guy, who let's see, he was played. What was his name anyway? I'm trying to remember his.
Dorfus.
Yes, something like that. Oh yeah, Jonathan Andrew McDorfus, played by Jim Greenleaf. I have no other credits for that guy. But he's like this overweight, farting, drunken loser guy that's also a badass at video games. His kind of rival is John Grice character, King Vidiot, who is like this punk rocker guy, and who ends up going and getting recruited by
Correct me if I'm wrong, Dano. That is Uncle Rico, correct? From
Yes.
Napoleon Dynamite.
No, you were right. The thing I was gonna say is he's a very well known character actor. He was Ben Linus's dad in Lost. He was
Fright Night 2.
Yeah, Fright Night 2. He was the bum in Seinfeld, named Rusty, that steals the cart, and who also doesn't want to give Kramer back his Tupperware. He's
I'm remembering now.
and here's the cool thing, like, because there were elements of this movie, however badly this movie, well, it actually performed. It came out like it was fifth in the box office the weekend it launched, but it's not a good movie. It's got a lot of these teen sex comedy cliches, and it's mostly just an excuse for TNA and that sort of thing. But John Grease does such a great job, and just 2 years later, he would end up being in Real Genius, which I think took some notes from this a little bit, except it's once again authority figure not trying to stop. He's trying to stop the guys from having fun while they're supposed to be working on his laser that's sent to kill people. Real Genius would be a great one for us to do, but he went on from being this punk rocker guy in this to 2 years later being this hippie that goes and sneaks into the closet into the underground world and is this super genius. So great character actor with lots of range. And yes, Uncle Rico in Napoleon Dynamite, maybe his best role of all time. So he actually kind of steals a lot of the scenes for me anyway. I don't know how you guys felt about it, but every time he was on screen, I was kind of like, oh yeah, it's Uncle Rico.
That's literally what I was going every time. I went, oh, hey, it's Uncle Rico. How you doing, buddy? And then I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. We're watching a movie.
Every time I saw him, I was just kind of thinking of that song. That do you want to hurt me? Just because he reminded me of
Oh, that
the
makeup.
with
Everything.
the character from The Wedding Singer that with the makeup and
Oh yeah. Wait a minute.
Uh,
What was that? That wasn't him, was it? That would be crazy if it was.
no, it wasn't him. No,
no, but no, but
that
the
was
makeup looks
Arquette.
so
That was
similar.
an Arquette. I think that person died.
Oh wow. So anyway, they have another cool thing about this. Andrew, you may have done some research on this as well. They actually used some video game images
Okay.
that hadn't come out yet.
So yes and no. I guess the story goes is that they acquired some like game footage, but like it's clear that they're not playing the games when you watch the film because they're just not clicking the buttons correctly, and what they're doing on screen is not reflecting on the controls that they're pressing. So I thought that that was a little strange, you know, because I've seen movies before like Terminator 2 where what they're doing on the screen is clearly what they're clicking on the buttons. And yeah, I guess that's how the story goes. Is they had game footage that was not shown before, and some of it was, and I don't necessarily think Nintendo approved of this movie, from what I understand, from what I've read online. But there
Yeah.
was nothing they could do at the time,
I can't
apparently.
believe you compared this to Terminator 2. Like,
Well, hold on a
James
second. Hold
Cameron, if you're
on.
listening, I'm
Hold
sorry.
on.
Linda
I never said
Hamilton,
that.
I'm
Don't
sorry.
pull.
Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'm
That,
sorry.
that was just the first movie that came to my head when I
Robert
thought of
Patrick,
like a
sorry.
movie that used the game footage and actually used like actual people playing the
Took me so
game.
long.
I
I'm not
know.
even
All
gonna
right,
I
try
so
my
know.
Arnold. I was about to do an Arnold impression. It's like,
this
nope, never
movie,
mind.
for
Ah,
me,
you play the video games.
all right, so this movie,
Blows.
aside from, I want to get into some of the cool things about this movie as opposed to just focusing on the negative, because that would be like the easy way, just to lay out all the negative, dumb things about this movie. But I will say that the setting in the arcade is actually pretty cool, and it does look like a real arcade. It reminded me of pinballs. It looks and feels like an arcade. Um, the sounds inside the arcade and the way everyone was functioning, uh, just I thought they did a good job on that. I know it was in 1983. So when I say that all the costumes and stuff really did make you feel like you're in the 80s, I mean, yeah, that's because that's when they filmed it. However, watching it now, it's kind of neat to see, all the 80s wardrobes. Like, it's very authentic. Just truly, I mean, 1983 is when this movie came out. The authenticity of like how they look and talk and how, bubbly everyone is. It's just, I'll give it the credit for feeling like an 80s. This is a true 80s movie, even if it sucks. But the punks, they looked funny. They didn't look like threatening punks to me, but they still looked like punks. And I gotta say, for being such a cheap movie, the director seemed to like have some clean shots in the directing and the editing, as far as just how the sequences played out and how all the shots were filmed and whatnot. Like, even though this is like a stupid story, uh, some of the directing wasn't bad for a very very low budget movie. The directing on this could have been really bad, stuck in this really small set with all these games all around. But the director knew how to focus on his actors, and Graydon Clark, it was the director. By the way, he also did Black Shampoo, Final Justice, Dark Future, Star Games. I've never seen any of those. But yeah, Skinheads. That's kind of interesting that he did Skinheads. But yeah, overall though the story was just bad, and like sometimes it's like there's porn out there that probably is better than this.
Uh, I'd agree with that. That's what I was trying to get into earlier, but yeah.
But the gathering of a bunch of different actors and actresses that I have seen over the years in many different kinds of movies, I was not expecting that. I wasn't expecting to see so many recognizable people I'd seen before and other stuff. So that was kind of neat.
I think that's a really good reason why you should watch this movie, because there's so many people who you go like, oh, I know this actor. I know this actor from this movie. And it's kind of cool to be like, yeah, they went on to better things, didn't they?
Yeah.
I will say that another endearing quality to it, I thought, is once again you've got this, and I kind of thought of Val Kilmer in Real Genius when I was thinking about the performance by Scott McGinnis, who's supposed to be like I guess, the hot stud dude that runs the video arcade and for his granddad, and he gives his employee, the really nerdy Eugene Grove, the hell of a time, but at the same time, really cares about the character and really cares about that guy and takes up for him on a regular basis. And it's kind of interesting seeing the relationship between those three. Okay, it's not that interesting, but it's
That's a worthy point.
but it is.
No. You make a good point, Dano. They do that. That's actually not bad part in the writing. That guy does actually give him shit, but like he cares about him too. I don't disagree with that at all.
Okay, well, I was saying, I just was trying to think. It's like, well, it's not that interesting, but it is a worthwhile thing to note. Um, I was also thinking about it, and this is something to get into, I guess, here in a minute when we kind of just run through some of the ways, I guess, I don't know if this influenced stuff or was influenced, but it's so early in the day, I can't help but think that this movie might have had an influence on some of the comedies that came out later, like Porky's and
Yeah, maybe.
but maybe not. But it definitely is a genre.
Porky's came out before this.
Porky's came out before this. Oh, well.
1981.
Oh, okay. That makes more
Porky's.
sense now because I was
Yeah.
thinking that makes a lot more sense. It's like because
Yeah,
I always thought of Porky's as kind of like this seminal movie, even though. So yeah, I don't know why I thought it came. Well, anyway.
maybe because you were thinking of a better movie, Dano.
I might have been. I don't know. Who knows? I will say that something that it made me think of, and this might not even cross you guys' mind at all, but I was thinking there aren't a whole lot of them of this particular genre that deals with video games, and I couldn't help but draw almost a direct correlation, even though they're completely different. But they both end with a video game contest, and I was like, it made me think of Grandma's Boy. For some weird reason. The use of the video games, the characters, the debauchery, everything. Although
That's so weird
old,
that you think about that. Because in Grandma's Boy, it's like the main character is a video game developer. Yeah, there's sex involved in that movie, but they're all adults. That's the flip flop. Is the difference. Is they're all adults in that film, but in Joysticks, most of them are teenagers. That's weird. A weird correlation. Maybe it was inspired.
Well, I think old school for that. Old school kind of turned the genre on its head when it came out and took the older people and put them in that comedy, which I could talk about old school a lot. But anyway, this movie it had interesting cuts with the Pac-Man coming across eating the screen, so it would switch scenes with that. It did feature as yet released or not yet released at the time Super Pac-Man, and it also had shots of Satan's Alley, I believe it is.
Oh yeah.
Which is one of the games they play in it. So it's cool in that regard. It's not a great movie, but it had its fun, and I had fun watching it after I powered through the first 10 movies with the helps of some breasts, and it helped me get to where I was needing to go. But it was a good times all around, and I had a lot of fun, and it was neat seeing John Grease in an early role. I never know if I'm saying his name right. My apologies, Jonathan. But anyway, so yeah, I dug it in its own right, but it's not a great movie. So I guess, what do y'all think?
Well, I'm gonna have to give it 4 horns down. I didn't really enjoy any minute of it. I agree with the most of what you're saying, but as a film, it bored me to death, and I felt like going falling asleep.
I give it 3 horns down because the video game setting was actually kind of neat. The 80s feel was interesting, and the director deserves a dash of credit for trying. But yeah, 3 horns down for me.
I'll give it one up. One up, as in it's not enough to save its life, but consider the extra man, I guess. When you get a one up, uh, like there's enough redeemable stuff that I was like, I would probably watch this one more time at least, um, and I would recommend it, just that base level for anyone looking for to see some of these actors in an early thing. However, if you're looking for teen sex comedy romps of any kind, you go with the classics. Go with Porky's. Go with Animal House. Go with
Or
American Pie. Go with one
just
of
watch
those.
just watch a John Hughes movie.
Or watch a John Hughes movie. I think of that as a very selective deal, but
Or
yeah,
watch a
John Hughes
porn.
movies. Or,
I'm just saying,
or
John Hughes
depending on
movies. John Hughes
depending on what
movies,
you're
like,
watching.
I'm just saying.
yeah, but like, what if I want to actually care about the people in the film?
Then get a
Watch
good
porn.
porn.
Oh my god! Wow, I can't believe you said that.
I mean, have you seen the Justice League porn?
No, I've not. My eyes.
You'll care about those characters.
It's not as good as the
I,
Marvels, but
I'm sure I will when I don't remember the quote. I haven't seen Batman vs Superman.
once again, Marvel porn parodies are better than DC parodies, so they're better at that too.
Wow. Y'all are arguing over this. I have no opinions. I promise. I have never watched pornography ever. I swear.
Well, to me, these kind of movies on Up All Night on USA when I was growing up, that was pretty much the closest I got, aside from trying to watch HBO through the scrambling. So anyway, TMI. But anyway, I had fun. One horn up for me. Okay, so overall, I think this one can remain buried for most folks. But if you want to seek it out, it's out there in the graveyard for you to find.
Or just go rent a porn.
Or just
Not really.
Or just watch the Seinfeld porn. You'll have a fun time.
there's two of them. There's a one in the.
I think if I had watched it with you guys, like in person, I probably would have had more fun watching this movie.
I agree with that. It would have been much more fun because we could have quoted like, "Hey, here's this actor." And we would have had a good time. But like,
Yeah, I would have had a good time watching this with you guys.
I think you're right. And the worse the movie, the better it is to watch with others. I think that's probably a good rule of thumb.
That's what I'm starting to learn with this podcast is that what you just said, Dano, right there.
Okie dokie. Well, I don't really have a whole lot else to say on the genre. We've kind of covered. This was our first kind of breakaway from. We've done sci-fi, we've done horror, but I wanted to do one of this genre for a while, just because to me it embodies the late night kind of B movies, some of which we touch on, and I'm glad you guys had a good humor about it, and Andrew, I'm glad you let yourself be put through it again because you did watch it again, right?
I wish I could lie and say that it was my first time.
Anyway, I had fun anyway, and I hope you guys did too.
Yeah, fun slamming it.
Yeah.
Oh my.
No, but you know what? I was looking at like on IMDb, and all these other 80s movies that are similar to it, they are not as popular as Porky's or Animal House. Like all these spin-offs of this kind of stuff. Screwballs, Hot Dog the movie.
I've seen that one.
Spring Break.
Seen that. Not very good.
Up the Creek.
Not very good.
What else is out there? I just didn't realize that there were so many I mean, Porky's was 1981. And then, Revenge of the Nerds came later, but I didn't realize how many of these crazy ass sexual romp comedies or whatever were made in that little time period right there.
Yeah, it kind of had its
Oh, no.
heyday, I guess.
I mean, Revenge of the Nerds is probably when it got really, really popping because like everybody was like, "Wait, these movies can actually be clever and funny."
What's the last one you can think of, either
Uh,
of you guys? The like,
uh,
if there's
for
been
me,
one, yeah.
for me, it's definitely Super Bad. I would say Super Bad is a sex-ish type comedy because that's what the whole point of the characters they're trying to do. They're like they want to get to the party so that they can have sex with the girls. That's actually the plot.
Yeah, I would put that up there as well as and I'm trying to remember which one came out first, but Sex Drive that came out.
I
That
love
was
that movie. That's
probably
actually
the
really
last
good.
one that's probably the last one I can remember.
There's your boy Seth Green in there. He's pretty funny in that one.
Yeah,
As
he
it
does
as
okay.
an Amish man who wants to help the boys get to the mission. I won't spoil the ending, but it's not very happy.
So yeah, there's a few of them, but I haven't seen one in the last probably because that came out in 2008. I don't think I really remember one since then. I'm sure there are some, and they kind of blur the line, and sometimes that
Well,
you know, but I don't know.
probably probably American Pie was
The
probably the
Van
one that like
Wilder movies? What about those?
Oh yeah, totally. I'd
eh,
say so.
I don't like them very much. They're kind
Well, I
of
didn't ask you that.
Mm.
So anyway, well, yeah, that was fun, and
what else?
I can't think of anything else really interesting to say about this other than it was fun getting back to all this after we took a little breaky poo after Halloween, and it's just good to get back in the saddle and talk about you know the stuff that's out in the graveyard.
Yep.
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 Well, hold on. What about meatballs though? You're forgetting that one.
Oh,
No, I
you know
didn't forget
what?
it.
Meatballs.
I didn't forget
Hold
it.
on.
It's
Hold on.
early on. It's 1 year after Animal House.
79. Yeah, Meatballs is 79.
I was like, how can you forget the classic Mr. Bill
Well,
Murray
there were like
meatballs?
three of those, three Meatballs movies.
Says there's
Yeah.
4.
Yeah, but we only care about the first one.
I'm just saying, it says there's 4.
Wow. But yeah, fun
And then
stuff.
what? Oh, what? Hold on. Weird
Okay.
Science. Ah,
Yeah, Weird Science is definitely one of them.
That transcends the normal, though. That most of these movies don't have like a bigger picture. And Weird Science is a little bit more than just some horny teens. Like there's science involved.
I agree with that. Though. I agree.
Weird Science involved. And it's
And
got Oingo Boingo on the soundtrack. How can you go wrong?
I
Oh
know,
my.
and Iron Man's in it, and
That's right. Oh, that is right. Yeah, Iron Man is the older brother, if I'm
and
correct.
the girl from Friday the 13th Part 4 is in it as well. The one who got killed to
Ah.
the left. Um,
Yeah, it's cool stuff. Yeah, Weird Science. It does. You're right, Tex. It does kind of transcend the genre.
No,
But yet again, it's in the category. Like
yeah,
if
I
you
was
want
like,
to
it's in
think
the
about it,
category.
it's like nerds make a hot girl in their laboratory. Kind of just covers it all, doesn't it?
Judy Aronson, that's her name. She was in this. I was always happy that she kind of broke away from just not being just a Friday the 13th woman, like she did more. I mean, a lot of them did more, but she was in Weird Science, and that's cool. Bill Paxton's in that too, and Robert Downey Jr. and so
And then, did either of you see The Girl Next Door from 2004?
I did see it because at the time I was kind of well, once again it was because I watched Old School that I watched that movie um, because she was in that as well. Uh, what is her name? Elisha Cuthbert. Um, yeah, I didn't really care for it. To me, it was kind of a spin on Risky Business,
I'd agree
and
with that.
I just was like, it was okay, but I was like, eh. Yeah, 2004. I almost forgot about that. That was a year before the video store went under. I was working a Video to Go when that movie came out. Probably watched it up there. That was back when they would release unrated versions of movies, and there would really be like just 2 minutes of something that really didn't make it worthwhile. But you're like, ooh, unrated. There's gonna be something more in that scene or something. That was the motivating factor for the putting unrated on stuff. There's a big boom of those for a while.
Hey, Dano,
Yeah.
at that video store that you used to work at back in the day,
Yes, sir.
did you guys have like your little secret porn section?
There was an adult section. It was mostly stuff like that would air on Cinemax, like Red Shoe Diaries type things. But yeah, there was one. We didn't have a truly adult section, but there was a little corner that
A corner.
yeah, it was a corner that, right by the main entrance. So,
Did you have it like closed off with a curtain?
oh no, no, since there wasn't anything truly pornographic over there, it was all like, Skinemax flicks. It was just there, but it was the adult section is what it was called.
Ooh, fancy and bourgeois. Ooh.
Yeah. So it was a bold move, I guess, for people to go to that section because there was no, and it was right by the main entrance. So anybody coming in, look to the left. Well, I know what they're looking for. So anyway, but that's fun times. I have fond memories of old Video to Go.
Well, you could say that they had their joys on a stick. Oh, sorry.
You're just trying. That was reaching too far, Andrew. You were trying too hard.
Your reach around on that joystick was just.
Tex takes it home.
You gotta reach a little further for that long joystick there.
Oh man. Okay.
Gosh.
Well, I guess this teen sex comedy has warped our minds. So,
Right.
if y'all don't have anything else, man, I think we're ready to hit the road for now until the next thing, and hopefully we'll have some another episode here soon. We'll figure out what it is we're watching and all that good stuff. So
Yeah, we'll move our meatballs around.
all right. Well, anything else, you guys?
No.
Thank you for everyone who listens to us, and a couple shout outs to Drive By. Thanks again for your support and leaving us comments on YouTube. Appreciate that, and all our other buds as well. And thank you everybody, and spread the word. Let us know on comments what you think. If you agree, disagree, whatever, keep it civil, but just let us know what you think, and tell people to check us out if you find us interesting. And until then, we will see you again at the next Graveyard podcast.
Goodbye to the grave.
Time to rewind and open your mind. No late fees to annoy you this time. Video store might be no more, but we're digging up movies worth watching them for. Time to power up the VCR. Headed to the graveyard of films near and far. Watching the strangeness we find on the way. Three crazy friendos with plenty to say. Come on our journey if you're so inclined. Leave sanity, hope, and good taste behind. Life isn't easy, but whatever is. Video store graveyard is open for biz. Time to rewind and open your mind. No late fees to annoy you this time. Video store might be no more, but we're digging up movies worth watching them for. Time to rewind and open your mind. No late fees to annoy you this time. Video store might be no more, but we're digging up movies worth watching them for.